because there is so much information online, like I think it has in some ways discouraged expertise, right? Like, so it feels like anybody could read a study, but that doesn't make you an expert, right? Like, just because you were able to read a couple of articles and like saw some podcast interviews, right? Like, in some ways, it feels like expertise has become a dirty word online, probably for lots of different reasons that we don't have time to necessarily go into today. But I don't think that expertise is a bad thing, right? Like when you are, going in for open heart surgery, you don't want somebody who has just read a couple of articles and like watched a YouTube video, you
I
know?
went to Grey's Anatomy University, and I can take out your app.
Anybody could do this.
I can do an appy.
I think it is really important for people to pay attention to their consumption of social media, both as a user, but also as a creator, right? Like, even if that is something that you do for work, it's still really important for you to set some boundaries around your time. And I also think boundaries around what you actually are sharing online.
I feel like you started it, and I want to say the word so that you keep doing what you already just started doing. How do we fix it?
Yeah. Something else to fix, right? Now we're talking about yet another thing that we got to fix, adding to the list of all the ways we are broken.
Always in the cycle. Always in the cycle.
Yes, but I think it's so much of it is automatic, right? Like they talk about it like this endless scroll. And, like, again, we are incentivized to stay there for as long as possible. And so I think it is only when we pull ourselves out of those cycles and like slow the process down. And if you have to do that by setting timers and like adding apps to your phone that make it so that you don't go to certain sites, like, again, don't feel bad about doing what you need to do to take care of your mental health. And so if you need to add extra layers, like taking it off your phone. So some people have taken social media apps completely on their phone. Maybe it's only on your iPad that's only in your room for like an hour in, between dinner and bedtime, right? Like doing whatever you need to do so that you can kind of get off that hamster wheel, I think is really, really important.
What I heard you say was go touch grass.
Touching grass is so important. I love touching grass.
That's what I heard. Go touch grass.
I think it's important though. Like, I think, again, there is a lot of good that comes from social media, right? Like, I do think it does allow for genuine connections, right? Not necessarily with the parasocial relationships, but people have been able to connect with people from all over the place who are actually real parts of each other's support systems. And so I don't want to at all diminish the intimacy and like the realness of relationships with people that you met on social. But at some point it has to transition, right? Like it doesn't just stay on Instagram or TikTok, like you're maybe texting or you're actually FaceTiming with people, right? But you also want to make sure that you're cultivating a very real life in real life, right? So that means going to brunch with your friends and like going to the library and going to movies, like doing things that actually don't require you to be in front of a screen are really, really important in helping you to actually stay grounded and feel connected to the outside world that doesn't exist on your device.
That resonates. That resonates because I met you online.
Yeah. Perfect example.
We was on the internet.
We was on the internet in the Facebook groups.
And then we were in the same place at the same time. My phone recently showed me a group picture of us on the beach.
I got that same notification. See how
and I was just like, well, look at you remembering things.
Yes.
I'm like, yes, I remember. I used to go outside.
That could be harder though to remember too. Again, coming out of the pandemic, right? Like so many of us had to stay inside for a very long time. And so, honestly for myself, like I have gotten very comfortable in my house. And so like you, I'm like, oh, you do have to go outside sometime, right? And so I think that could be the case for other people too, is that you don't remember like, oh, you do need to actually interact with other people in the world. Even though, it was for a long time, like you had to stay in your bubble, right? And kind of to be safe. It is a little safer to go outside and like do other things now. And so it is important to engage with that when you can.
How do you maintain you during what is your process for not being in the constant fix-it state of, oh, I saw it on social, so I'm fixing my house, I'm fixing my life, I'm fixing my relationship, oh, I'm fixing what I look like, I'm fixing how much I'm online versus how much I'm not online and all that. What are you doing?
Yeah, so I do also set some limits around like how much time I'm spending online. So I would love to say that I'm not like falling asleep scrolling, but that is not the truth. Like sometimes I am. But I realize for me, what I was doing was sometimes like just falling down rabbit holes of things. And I think, again, because of what I do for work, right? Like I'm thinking about always what kinds of things does my community need to hear or have resources about, which sometimes are not pleasant kinds of things. And I was falling down rabbit holes. And so the things that have really helped me is to put some limits around like how far down any rabbit hole I'm going, and really relying on my team members so that I don't feel personally responsible for the being the only person who knows what's happening, right? Because if it's just me, then I feel more responsible for like, okay, I got to know what people are talking about to know what I need to do for work. But there are other people on my team now, and so I don't have to be the only one who's looking at that. And I encourage my team to also put some boundaries around social, and not, end up down rabbit holes. So that has really helped me, is to not feel responsible for like knowing all the things. But I also, will put the phone down. I also have two little kids who are very active. And so I think that also helps me, that I'm like running to basketball practice or whatever. And so I think just less time, in some ways, helps me to kind of, put the phone down more.
I love that you said that. I recognize for me that it wasn't so much as telling myself to be on my phone less. It was more telling myself to do things that I enjoy more.
Yes.
And the natural progression of that was, you finna be on your phone a little bit less. So being able to say, yes, I am doing the thing that I've said I was going to do since 2017, and do a podcast, means that there are hours spent dedicated just for the podcast.
Mm-hmm.
It's the research. It's the, what blackness are you trying to wear today? It's these pieces. They're now taking attention.
Mm-hmm.
It's the preparing for the conversation, and then the debriefing from the conversation. I'm taking French. I'm like, I don't have time to be on my phone. Not in the same way. Not
Yeah.
anymore. It's not on my phone. It's, yes, Duolingo is still a thing.
Mm-hmm.
This girl is still on Duolingo. 640 days strong.
Okay, street.
But at the same time, I'm like, taking actual lessons with actual people, which takes actual time out of the schedule for me to be doing that.
Mm-hmm.
It's library day. It's date night.
All the
It's
things.
time to go do Pilates. Just started this year. 8 classes in.
Okay.
So for me, it was the do more other things,
Mm-hmm.
and watch your phone usage drop.
Yeah. And it's hard to not like it's hard to be on your phone while you're in Pilates class, while you are getting ready for a podcast episode, right? Like, so I do think that is a part of the key, is that you are doing other things that are of interest to you, right? So all of those things, and I'm guilty of it too, like the save folder, all the videos you've saved on TikTok, on Instagram, like, oh, I'm gonna go try this restaurant because I saw this person share it. Like, go actually do those things, right? Like, so the
It,
phone can be a resource and a conduit to these other things, but it can't just be in your save folder. Like, go do the things that you found interesting on TikTok. Like, that is the beauty part of it, is that it introduces you to these things, but then you actually got to go do it. You can't just save it in your folder.
I
Yeah.
saw a video of some people rubbing chocolate on their hands, and I was just like, what the hell are you doing?
What?
Like, what are you doing? It was a part of a restaurant experience.
Okay.
I want to say the restaurant is called El Cielo.
Mm-hmm.
They have one here in DC. So me and Mr. Boothang, we went. And they like legit had, like, they have you wash your hands,
Uh-huh.
and they have you like exfoliate your hands with something. They pour like chocolate, and then they rinse off. Your hands feel so soft, and you
Oh,
smell so sweet. And I
okay.
was just like, I don't know why we did this, but I liked it because, since they have you wash your hands first,
Right.
it's like they're like, taste the chocolate.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's clean.
Like, I'm an adult. I could stick my
Eat chocolate off my hands?
yes. And I think for me, that playfulness, I
Mm-hmm.
was just like, oh, this translates from what was on social media into real life. And like, I like, even talking to you about it now, I can remember the feel of the chocolate, and
Mm.
like this sort of forbiddenness around sticking your fingers in your mouth,
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
especially in a,
In a public
post
place.
panini world.
Do it
It's
true.
like,
Yes. Yes.
I can do that.
I love that. That's such a great example because you're also talking about like using all of your senses, right? Which we know is also really great for grounding and mental health. So experiences like that, I think, are really great to be able to kind of engage some of your senses that you forget about beyond a survival kind of thing, right? Like the playfulness of it is really, really important.
It makes me remember how often how important play is just in general,
Right.
but also how often adults are discouraged from play.
Yes.
And with this constant fix it attitude that social media can foster, not does, but could
Hmm.
foster, there's no play there. Like if you're constantly healing and let's work on what it takes to be a better friend. Let's fix your communication. Let's fix your face, fix your hair, fix your nails.
Mm.
I'm just like, well, geez.
Right.
It's one thing for something to be a resource. It's something else for basically to tell you or even shame you in some ways into believing that your entire life, your entire being is broken if you're not
Yes.
about this thing.
Yes. Yes. It doesn't, it's not a tool anymore then.
No.
Yeah.
So then in the dynamics of the therapeutic space, right? Like how is like social media affecting the power dynamics between the influencer, the mental health professional and the public at large?
So I think in some ways it has maybe lessened some of the power dynamic, right? And I think a lot of therapists were already practicing. I mean, we know that there is an inherent power dynamic, but I think a lot of us who work from more, less traditional models of therapy, like always want to try to minimize that as much as possible anyway. But I think it does allow for clients to come in and say, "Hey, I saw this video on social, and this sounds like something I resonated with. I'd love to talk with you more about it." Right? I think that that makes it so that the client is more the expert on themselves. Like they have more language to describe what's going on with them. And so then that does minimize like therapist as expert. And so I think in some ways it has minimized that power differential, but it does still exist that yes, you are the expert on yourself, but the therapist is probably the expert on like mental health, right? And like the theories and like the things we have gone to school for a very long time for, and the things we have seen across clients. Because that's the other thing is that, as a mental health professional, you have the ability to see across clients and to see what mental health looks like across a spectrum. Whereas as the client or the person, the individual, you only know about your mental health, right? Like you only have insight into your inner experience. And so I think that that is also what allows or adds to our credibility is that we have now seen lots of different clients and have seen symptoms show up in lots of different ways that then allows us to help people, I think, in a more measured way.
I love that. That was such a delicious answer.
I love delicious as a word.
I feel like we need to use delicious more. So I just decided I'm going to take up the charge. Delicious. It was delicious as an answer because there's a inherent part of the way we're taught to be in our professions that almost requests for us to maintain a certain type of power dynamic,
Hmm.
to have power over, as opposed to having power with.
Right.
Some can come to therapy thinking they have power over
Mm.
and they don't know how to share power with.
Mm.
Like, people come to me and tell me what their diagnosis is and have never seen a mental health professional. And I'm just like, well, I disagree. And I'm
Mm.
not fighting you on it.
Interesting.
Like, oh, someone came to me and was just like, yes, I'm a nymphomaniac. I was just like, as evidenced by, it's just like, well, I want sex all the time.
Hmm.
I was just like, do you feel distressed? No.
Well.
Then you're probably not a nymphomaniac. Like, I don't even know what to say. I'm like, I'm not even sure we call it that
No,
anymore.
I've not seen that word in
Just
a
the
very long
language
time.
that you brought, I'm coming with you, but no. I'm
Interesting.
like, have you missed work? Like, do you often miss work? Then you probably don't have a sex. I just like, people
Hmm.
argue with me online about sex addictions. I'm just like, they don't exist.
Hmm.
I don't know what to tell you.
Yeah.
At least the way that I learned sexuality,
Right.
the space I learned it from, and my certifying body does not recognize it
Mhm.
as a thing. So I'm looking like, go find a therapist who agrees with you
Yeah.
and leave me alone.
So I've not had that experience, but I haven't been taking new clients in a long time, which is maybe why. But that is an interesting dynamic, right? But it also would lead me to clinically think, where else are you doing this in your life? Right. So if you show up to me in this office with like, oh, I know more than you, it's very likely that you are doing that in other parts of your life, which is likely what led you to therapy in the first place.
I'm
Um,
alarmed every time somebody comes to me with a diagnosis
mhm.
and won't be, not dissuade,
Yeah, but
but
open
won't be
for a conversation.
exactly.
Yeah.
Like someone was just like, I have ADHD. Okay. How do you know?
Mhm.
Right? And I'm just like, I'm not arguing with you
Right.
about it. I mean, that's great. You believe that this is what you have. Cool beans. And what
What
else
else
could
could
it
be going
be?
on? Right.
Right?
What else could be
Like,
going
do
on?
you want to talk about the rest of what could be or is part of the all the stuff,
Right.
or not, or we just done?
Mhm.
I'm just wondering, like,
Well, no, but I think you bring up a good point in that, because there is so much information online, like I think it has in some ways discouraged expertise. Right? Like so it feels like anybody could read a study but that doesn't make you an expert, right? Like just because you were able to read a couple of articles and like saw some podcast interviews, right? Like that gives you a glimpse. Maybe you're more well informed, but you have not done the same schooling. You have not worked with the same breadth and width of patients that many of us have, which also inform our expertise. And so I think in some ways it feels like expertise has become a dirty word online, probably for lots of different reasons that we don't have time to necessarily go into today. But I don't think that expertise is a bad thing, right? Like when you are, going in for open heart surgery, you don't want somebody who has just read a couple of articles and like watched a YouTube video, you
I
know?
went to Grey's Anatomy University, and I can take out your app and
Anybody could do this.
I can do an appy. I can do one. McBurney's point, make a 2-inch incision, locate, rotate the cecum,
Yeah.
invert the stump into the cecum, pull up on the
See,
purse
you know
strings.
more than I do, so you might actually be able to get away with this, Dr. Oriowo. I don't know.
I don't even know what an appendix looks like.
Where would we even start the cut? I don't even
I
know.
don't know where McBurney's point is. I
Yeah.
just know that that's where you're supposed to be.
That's what they said on Grey's Anatomy. Yeah, but I think because people often think therapy and mental health professionals were just talking and it feels like anybody could do it, I think then our expertise is questioned even more, right?
Ooh,
Where you
feel
wouldn't maybe a surgeon, right? Because it's very clear that there are things that they do, but I think a lot of what we do is just not seen. And so people don't understand and it feels easier to kind of question like, oh, I know more than you. Like I could do this kind of thing, which feels very unfair.
especially in a I'm going to fix everything about my life world.
Yeah.
I'm fixing what I look like. I use this book, I use these videos that I found on TikTok, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. So despite the fact that none of these things have been geared necessarily toward you or maybe even about or for you,
Yes.
you're using them as a way to fix your life that was probably never broken in the first place.
Right.
Meanwhile, this was a delicious conversation.
Delicious.
Thank you. Thank you for this conversation. Can you tell the people what's something that you want them to leave this conversation with? Like, if nothing else,
Mhm.
remember this.
Yes. I think it would have to be that you are not a DIY project. There may be some things that you want to improve, but you are lovable and worthy just as you are. So please rest in that.
That and on that word, can you tell the people where they can find you? I mean, really, they should know. But can you tell them where they can find you and what you have coming up that people may want to be part of?
Yeah, so you can find me at Hello Dr. Joy all across social media. My website is hellodrjoy.com. You can find the resources that we have at therapyforblackgirls.com. We have our therapist directory, as well as our podcast. And as you mentioned, I have the book Sisterhood Heals that I would love for folks to check out and read in community because it is a book best consumed and discussed in community. And you can find all of that at sisterhoodheals.com.
All that. Oh yeah. It is time for a little bit of unfiltered advice. Feelings are not facts. I know I've said it before, but I don't think that we always hear it. Feelings are not facts. The way you feel is maybe a fact to you, but it's not a fact of life. And in this case, that means that you are, one, not meant to be consumed, right? As Dr. Joy said, that's one. And that you are not a broken project which constantly requires fixing. You may feel like you are behind because of the way that people are displaying things on social media, their houses, their cars, their hairstyles, their makeup, this, that, and the third. People are talking all the time on social. And the thing is, we love to hear them. I need you to remember that some of this is pretend. That doesn't mean that they're not living the lives that they're saying they're living, but it does mean that they have set it up to be the most optimal, the most sexy for you to see. It does mean that when we live in a culture of constant consumerism, when we are in this culture of capitalism, the way that it can come out in a social media space is inherent with power dynamics, because the algorithm is choosing who you could see based on who's going to help get them the most money, who's going to maintain your attention, your time, your energy. But also, the people that you are watching also have an agenda. They're trying to get you to do something. They may be trying to get you to think something. They may be trying to get you to buy something. I too have an agenda. My agenda is for you to be able to feel your desire more. My agenda for you is to experience a life that has more pleasure in it. And part of the way that you do that is unencumbering your mind from all of these things and knowing that you are not a constant improvement project, that you're fine now. You're now, right now, as you are, whatever you're wearing, now you are fine. I mean, you're probably more than fine, but let's start with fine because I know you don't believe me. You're perfect. You're not ready for that one. Let's go back to fine. You're fine. And just because you feel like you require fixing doesn't mean that you actually require fixing. There are always improvements that we can make in the way that we speak to others, the way that we engage with others. There are always things that we can be doing, yes. And sometimes you need to touch grass. Sometimes you need to know that what's on social media is for your entertainment, but not for you to create the roadmap of your life with. Again, you're fine. You're not intended to be consumed. And I'll go out on a limb and say you're not meant to always, constantly, and ceaselessly be consuming. Sometimes you have to say that you're full for the day and take a step back. I'll see you on the next episode.